Yet this morning, I am inspired to speak to you about two very special fathers of the Bible. Both were businessmen. One, however, was rich, and the other very humble. They both caught the attention of the people around them, and later till this day have taught God's people great lessons. One was famous, and his story was told very much. And the other story is forever told, yet the focus is never really on him. Whilst his story should capture the attention to one and all. Both have done great things. One in generosity to his son, and the other for his greatness to mankind. Why do I speak to you of these two fathers this morning? I wish to call your attention to these two fathers because today our focus is on all our fathers, and because both their stories are yet so vivid and exemplary to us living in this world even today. Let me start with the famous father who gained attention when he shows character and love and forgiveness instead of being angry and disgusted and disappointed by his youngest son's action. This father pours out his love and welcomes his prodigal, his lost son, back into his household, and does it with a great banquet. How many fathers today cannot or are not willing to deal with the failures, the mistakes, the disappointments of their children? How many fathers today have decided that just because their children have reached a certain age, they are finished with them? Not just no longer responsible for financial support, but more than that, no longer available for the guidance, the protection, or the moral support that any daughter or son requires from a father. How many children have messed up today and their fathers could not cope with the situation, and so they just turn their backs on their children, never looking after them again? How many children are roaming the streets today because they are afraid and have been told never ever to put their feet back in that home? This famous father, however, itata conosce parte over the awe. Den e parabola di eu perdi. Itata aqui cita outro. Ora que o Senhor disse que foi trempar, anto disse tu não me lo que te dime, itata ta cumpre, itata ta dune lo que te dice. Anto aunque ku itata sa ku eu aqui também malgastar turno que ela dune, itata aqui nunca a ser seu coração para ele. Nunca. He kept his heart open, and he knew that he would be there to forgive son. He knew that the time would come when that son would have to return to him. And he waited patiently. He asked the people around him to look out and look after his son. And when that message came, that his son could no longer bear the life he was living, what did the father do? As any righteous father would do, he opened his arms, opened his home, and welcomed his son back at home. And why did he do it? He knew his son needed him, and he knew that his son deserved a second chance. Friends, my brothers and sisters, we as fathers this morning, and speaking especially to the fathers, sometimes we think that the life and the things that we are passing in, only we have to face them. But I'd like to stop this morning and also think of another father whom not much is said about, except for Christmas, when we want to portray Mary and Joseph. But let me tell you something special about this father. And it is a story that many of us can relate to. You see, Jesus, as all of us know, is the Son of God. Yet Joseph in those days was a young man with great expectations. He had found this beautiful young girl that he was going to marry and make a life with her. And when Mary comes to Joseph, saying that she was pregnant, Joseph reacted as any one of us would do. Joseph was scared. He knew that this child could not be his because he had had no sexual relationship with his girlfriend. And also he knew that in those days, if this would come out, that Mary was not truthful, and Mary was pregnant and not for the man that she was accounted for to marry, she would be stoned to death. So what does Joseph do? Joseph prays. He prays because he does not know what to do exactly. And then the message comes from God that this son was a special son and that he should marry Mary. Now the essence of the story is that although Joseph was not the father of that child, Joseph marries the young lady and takes that son and cares for him as if it was his very own son. How many men today are taking care and are fathering children who are not theirs, and yet in this secular world they are being called fools. They are being called fools because they are taking care of children who are not their very own children, his very own children. And why do we call them fools? Do we call Joseph a fool? What would have happened to us if Joseph had refused to take in this son that was not his? Mary would have been stoned to death, and Jesus would not have been born, and we would not have had the opportunity of being saved. Many men today are fathers by procreating children, yet they have never fathered a child in their lives. Sad to acknowledge that some fathers, even whilst they're living in the same house, know nothing about caring for, loving, and or having any kind of relationship with their children to whom God has given them. The only relationship that some of these fathers have is by giving financial support and by punishing the children. This morning, however, I wish to give kudos and a great thumbs up to all those fathers who have understood and fully accepted the responsibility that God has bestowed upon them in being great fathers. This morning we applaud all you God-fearing fathers who know that bearing the responsibility of fatherhood means to love, cherish, guide, forgive, and protect your children. God-fearing fathers are the greatest examples to their children as they teach their children by example to know God and instruct their children about the law of God. Fathers are extremely important to the family. And you know, sometimes we women like to say that we are the most important ones in the family. But I tell you this morning, fathers are extremely important to the family. When fathers are absent or non-existent in the lives of their children, it not only puts an extra strain on the mothers, but sadly enough, it leaves a void. It makes a difference in the life of a child. Sometimes that void, sometimes that hole is so deep and wide that it is never ever filled. And the void is carried from childhood into adulthood and lives with that child forever. A missing father can be of a permanent damage to any child. As a matter of fact, that goes for any missing parent. Without proper coaching and or adequate accommodating guidance, this child can be damaged forever. Yet, some children tienen hope mucho de que Dios, a pesar de esa situación que nanta vive kung no tingon tata na no konosin tata, y ora na tingon tata miss, e tata panan no tasibi pa net na the que Deus continua com a sinha viva com você. Circunstância, situação da pone com a sinha viva com esse situação. Pero nós também, mesmo com Jesus, tem segurança de nem mais que a vida crescer para nós temos Tata Celestial. No matter what happens, no matter what our earthly father does or what he does not, we have an earthly Father. And through the presence of His Holy Spirit in our lives, He assured us and still assures us that He is always with us. I would like to urge all fathers in particular this morning to be like Joseph, to rely on the omnipotence of God in their lives, and to be the best father to their children, the best father to children that are a gift from God. Children are a gift from God. And through Jesus Christ, this morning I'm asking you, let your hearts be righteous, good, caring, forgiving, and honorable. And may your whole being as a father be one of responsibility, determination, patience, and love, which will help you to understand the task entrusted to you. I'm speaking of a righteous man. And the heart of a righteous man does good to his children, but also to his spouse and all present in his life. The righteous man's heart wants only the best for others, the best for his children, and always and forever encourages his children and tries to bring out the best in his children. A righteous father teaches, instructs, encourages, and empowers his children to be more than he himself could ever be. He raises them up. A righteous father dreams big for his children, yet he abides in forgiveness and believes in giving the unsuccessful child a second chance. All fathers, especially fathers, mothers are more inclined to forgive, but all fathers expect their sons to be like them. But the righteous father tries and does all he can that his son be much more than him. And when that does not happen, he still loves that child. He still cares for that child and encourages the child to be the best that he can ever be. Fatherhood, my friends, it's not about how many children or how many riches you leave behind for your children. Fatherhood is about how you have touched the lives of your children. Fatherhood is about how you have shaped the lives of the children. How you have encouraged them to be God-fearing and to always be the best they can. I wish you all a blessed Father's Day. May you be pampered this day by your loved ones. And may you know that your children needs you and rely on you, and that God looks over you and is always there to reach out and touch you and renew you. Trust in the Lord always. Make amends if needed, and be the man, be the father that God intended you to be. God bless you and strengthen you. And to all mothers who have been mother and father to your children, kudos to you too. Know that God is with you, and He never gives you more than He will see you through. Trust and rely on God's goodness, and know that God is God in every and all situations. Amen. Yet this morning, I am inspired to speak to you about two very special fathers of the Bible. Both were businessmen. One, however, was rich, and the other very humble. They both caught the attention of the people around them, and later till this day have taught God's people great lessons. One was famous, and his story was told very much. And the other story is forever told, yet the focus is never really on him. Whilst his story should capture the attention to one and all. Both have done great things. One in generosity to his son, and the other for his greatness to mankind. Why do I speak to you of these two fathers this morning? I wish to call your attention to these two fathers because today our focus is on all our fathers, and because both their stories are yet so vivid and exemplary to us living in this world even today. Let me start with the famous father who gained attention when he shows character and love and forgiveness, instead of being angry and disgusted and disappointed by his youngest son's action. This father pours out his love and welcomes his prodigal, his lost son, back into his household, and does it with a great banquet. How many fathers today cannot or are not willing to deal with the failures, the mistakes, the disappointments of their children? How many fathers today have decided that just because their children have reached a certain age, they are finished with them? Not just no longer responsible for financial support, but more than that, no longer available for the guidance, the protection, or the moral support that any daughter or son requires from a father.